Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight's meeting. Tonight we're meeting, excuse me, Dallas ISD Community Listening Session and Meeting for Bond 2020. Tonight's meeting focuses on the design of the new replacement school for Martha Turney Reilly Elementary School. We're happy to have you join us today. I'm going to pause now so that our interpreter can give instructions on how to join us in Spanish.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Muy buenas tardes, padres. En unos momentos vamos a comenzar con la interpretación para esta reunión. Si usted desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor pase a la pantalla, a la parte inferior de su pantalla y seleccione el icono del mundo. Ahí usted va a elegir el español. Si por algún motivo no nos puede escuchar, por favor seleccione regrese al inglés y después regrese al español. Y si aún continúa teniendo dificultades, por favor déjenos saber en el chat. También puede participar a través de la plataforma de Facebook en Dallas ISD en español. Y desafortunadamente la opción de interpretación no es compatible con las computadoras Chromebook, así que les recomendamos que intente entrar a la reunión utilizando un teléfono celular, iPhone o Android, o una computadora PC, iPad, tablet, o para poder escuchar la reunión en español. Gracias. All right, Ms. Bill, I'm ready.
Thank you so much. Again, Dallas ISD is welcoming you to tonight's community listening session on the early design of the new Martha Turner Reilly Replacement Elementary School. We thank you for joining us tonight. Your voice is very important as we develop design for our new replacement schools, thanks to Bond 2020. There are several ways people are joining us this evening. First, of course, on this Zoom call. We also have people joining us via Facebook and Facebook in Espanol. If you are joining us on Facebook, please feel free to ask any questions, have your comments, and share your ideas as comments on Facebook, and we will share them here in the meeting and get them answered for you. If you're joining us on the Zoom call, if you hit the reactions button, you'll be able to raise your hand. And when we like the question and answer period, simply raise your hand and we can take you off mute and you can then ask your question at that time. If not, excuse me, or you can actually place your question in the chat room. So if you want to make sure everything is rolling here, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. So if you're on the Zoom call, you can raise your hand. We can either ask the question live or we can place the question in the chat and we will get those answered as well. With no further ado, we're going to open the meeting with a word welcome from this amazing principal for this great school. Principal O'Neill.
Good evening and welcome to our community meeting for the Reilly Replacement School. We would just like to thank our Reilly staff that are joining us this evening, our parents and community members. I would also like to thank the architects at Manning and the project management teams at Decatur and Dallas ISD for really listening to us at our last meeting and taking our ideas from that meeting and bringing the design to life that we are going to see in just a little bit. We want to thank our ED, Ms. Lisa Vega, and of course, our board trustee, Dan Mitchgay, for all of your support. We are so excited at Reilly for this opportunity to get a new building. It's a great opportunity for our students and also for our community. And we really look forward to getting your feedback on the designs tonight. So thank you again for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for the wonderful job you do every day to educate our scholars and the work that you're doing during very difficult times to make sure that our kids are receiving the quality of education that we know they all deserve. With that being said, Principal O'Neill had mentioned the trustee for this amazing school. And we're very fortunate to have Trustee Dan Mitchgay join us this evening. Trustee Mitchgay, would you like to make any opening remarks?
I just want to echo the thanks and the welcome that Ms. O'Neill just made. Thanks to our taxpayers. This is really exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing this project develop. Please speak up if you have input to give. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Trustee Mitchgay, for joining us tonight on this meeting. We know that, and we thank you for the work that you do every day as a champion for students across Dallas ISD. We're going to now move quickly into the meeting. Again, We want to make sure that everyone knows you will have opportunities. We want to hear your voice, and your questions will be presented to the project team. Your comments will be shared as well. We are asking that you hold your questions until after the presentation. Please make sure that you're taking notes. You can make sure you know things that you like, things you dislike, but we want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. So with that being said, allow me to introduce the person for Dallas ISD who is heading our bond program, Deputy Chief of Bond and Construction Services, Brent Alfred, who will set the tone for tonight's meeting. Mr. Alfred.
Thank you, Ms. Bell, and thank you, Reilly community, for having us tonight. We're excited. I've been working with this architecture team and our program management team to really bring something special to this community, because I think you guys deserve it. This is our second meeting, of course. You know, in our first meeting, we went over your 3 big ideas, and that's going to be a theme we carry throughout the design life of this project to make sure we're capturing your input. You know, you guys are part of this $3.5 billion bond program, which is historic for the state of Texas, the largest we've ever had. And you are one of 14 replacement schools, which I think are the crown jewels of this bond program, and will really set the tone for the rest of it. So I'm excited. You know, I'm loving the impact that this will have on your community. And, you know, right now I'm the only thing in the way between you and the presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Andy with Manning Architects and let him take you through this presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Andy from Manning Architects. First of all, thank you again for participating in this community meeting. Especially for those who participated last time and also this time. Your inputs are very important and becomes nice nutrients for the design team to move on. So next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to show you a series of images and plans. Please hold your questions until the end. Please refer to the page numbers, which is located at the bottom right as the design presentation begins. If you need them to refer to for questions. So let's start with what we have discussed last time we were here. So the overarching idea we had was the BIG, the bold, innovative, and generational. And from each category, in case of bold, we discussed, you know, how do we welcome our teachers, community members, and also students, how we make this building very inviting. And on innovative, we talked about how do we look to the future and then be flexible in geometry so that we can cater to the changes that's going to happen while maintaining the safety of the school as well. On generational, we talked about being inclusive to the all needs of all students, making it accessible and connecting the community and the school and all staff and students likewise. So I like to start with existing conditions because not all of you will be familiar with the site. So here in white line, we have existing building. And what's highlighted in green, we have a garden area. And what is white is the pavilion that's existing. Here's the parking. Here's paved basketball courts. And some of the playgrounds are distributed throughout the site. When you look at the overall geometry of the building, we're going to have two things that are happening. On one side of the academic wing, we have pre-K and first. And the desire is to separate them from the little older kids, a second from fifth. And then we're going to place everything in the middle, connecting the two wings together. So we have two site planning ideas and also two massing ideas. What started here is existing building, and after the completion of the new building, we're going to move the kids, and then we're going to demolish the building. So the school will be in operation continuously. And then after the existing building is demolished, and we're going to work on the site that used to be occupied with the existing building. So we have two options. Option A, here in this zone, we have a visitor parking, and then we have school bus entering with the canopies and going out. And we have another zone, which is truck deliveries to support the kitchen in a separate entry onto the site. And then we have a basketball and playground here, and then open field. And we have staff parking here, which is also being utilized as a drop off and pickup for second through fifth students. And on the west side, on Nearing Drive, we have pre-K and first graders being picked up. So when it comes to a drop off and pickup, there are two distinctive ideas. On the west side, in this option, we have more or less like an airport style, where you line up, you go in from here to all the way up here. Those are pickup opportunities. So when you have your child, you don't have to feel like you're stuck in there. So when you have your child, you can slowly move into the left lane, and then you can exit out of the school and then go on. So in this portion of the drop-off pickup area, we have this red car shown. The idea is to let's put as many cars here in this zone so that we're moving the traffic away from the street as many as possible. And then at this point, you're going to queue in one line, pick up your kids, and then again to the available left lane, slowly move into that lane, and then off you go. Okay. And then let's look at option B. So this option has, in this area, we have pre-K pickup here that's also shared by school bus. And then we're going to have a staff parking here, which will support the kitchen here. Then we have delivery tucked at a corner right next to the cafeteria and the kitchen right here. So in this zone, we have second through fifth students who will be entering here through this entry. And then again, queuing in two lanes until you get to this part. And then you queue in one lane, kids get in, and then you can slowly move into the left lane that's available to you, and then you drive away. And then in this zone, we have the playground, basketball, and then open field. So you're seeing two options side by side. There are pros and cons to each site layout idea. In option A, we have very distinctive zones that are separated from each other, such as picking up the pre-K and also second through fifth, and truck delivery is completely separate piece. And then you have the bus drop-off in distinctive zones. In this one, we have staff parking and the second through fifth drop-off here. However, this zone is shared between pre-K and the bus pickup, and then the delivery is separate. So there are some advantages and disadvantages. And we'll come back to all these with your questions later on. So you hold on. So this is something that we discussed on the last charrette. We have this beautiful community garden here. However, during the construction, we will need at least 20 feet from the exterior walls for the purpose of demolition. So we're gonna do what we can, but it doesn't look promising at this point to save all of the gardens. I think it'll be very difficult, but we're gonna try to save the pavilion in the middle, which we should be able to. Okay. And for future expansion ideas, again, there are pros and cons to each strategy. Option A, because the parking lot is located here, I think the future expansion opportunities better in option B, because option A only allow the expansion on the pre-K wing of the building. And for locations of future bus, if we grow to a larger school, we're planning on having additional bus here for option A, and perhaps replace a small zone for option B. And now we're going to move into massing ideas. These are strictly massing ideas. It's not architectural design yet. The purpose of the massing is to show a scale, adjacency, and also overall layout of the site. So this is showing option A, and we're going to zoom into this area right here. So at this point, we're going to plan on doing a one-story throughout the site. There will be no two stories. What you're seeing in the background here in dark gray, those are high volume programmatic elements such as the gym. And we're going to try to consolidate that in the middle of the building so it does not compete with the residential neighborhood. Zooming back out, and we're going to look at this area on the next slide, showing the scale of kids and also adults as reference to scale. This is from the north, and we're going to zoom into that view next. Again, people. All right, and we're going to move to option B for massing. Yeah, we're going to zoom into this area to see how it compares with other neighboring buildings. Again, everything is one story. Zooming back out, and then we're going to focus on this area. Zooming back out. This is the view from the north. we're going to have some canopies for the operation of picking up and dropping off students. Those are very helpful and necessary elements. Then we're going to zoom in to this area. Like so. And we're going to have some opportunities for school names and such, but that's going to be down the road. And then you can see this kind of swooping the canopy. So that was a lot of information in such a short amount of time. So Ms. Bell, at this point, with your permission, I would like to have questions. Any comments?
Yes, thank you for that presentation. And again, if you're joining us, and some of us joining us late, if you're on the Zoom call, you can raise your hand using the reactions button and raise your hand at this time and be recognized, go off mute to ask questions, or you can place your questions in the chat room. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, please ask any questions as comments on the Facebook post, and we'll get those shared as well. I see a hand raised, Ms. Corona. Please go ahead.
Ms. Corona, you're on mute.
Hello?
Hello, yes, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yeah, so the question is, I guess I just want to get a little clarification on what the term replacement means. We're just literally just replacing the school. And I wanted to know if they would be expanding the zoning of the school, or if there was new student body being changed, if there will be a change to that, or is that not changing? Just literally the building of the school.
Okay, let me restate the question, make sure we understand what you're saying. You're saying, what is the definition of a replacement school? Does that include the attendance zoning or just the building itself? Is that the question you're asking?
Correct, yes. Perfect.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alfred, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, it doesn't incorporate any attendance zoning or boundaries. It's strictly the construction of the new building. They're going to build a brand new building on the same campus and then demo the old building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We do have a question coming through in the chat from Ms. Stetler. What about outdoor learning options? Have you thought about any of those?
So is that a question for me, or?
Yes, that'll be for you,
sure.
For the design team. Yeah.
Outdoor learning options, we do have, let me go back to the site plan. So we do have some rooms here. And also we're looking at the garden areas the existing garden areas about here. So if we could, I think around the pavilion, saving that will be a learning opportunity itself. And then perhaps there could be some moments here along with collaboration with the involved community. But we do have open space. But are you thinking about very specific outdoor learning experience? If so, what are they?
Yeah.
I was thinking about a covered area, a large shaded area, accessible from the school, very accessible from the school. As we had talked about, indoor, outdoor learning. And I didn't really see anything on the plans. So I was just asking about that.
Yeah, when it comes to shaded areas, we don't have them at this point. But it's something that can be worked on with the community's help down the road.
Andy, if I could interject, could you show this sketch on the screen in a larger way so that the exhibit fills up the whole screen instead of a split screen with the people in the audience? Because we really can't see it.
Hold on, hold one moment. DSTV, could you move to full screen option and remove the speaker view on your end, please? Okay, and if you're joining us on the Zoom call, if you go to view options at the top of your screen, you can actually change and zoom into. Thank you, DSTV. If you go to viewer options, if you're on our on the Zoom call, at the very top right, there's a button that says view options. There you can go in and actually increase the size to up to 300, so you can get a better view of it, and also take off the side-by-side mode. That may be helpful as well. Okay, Alexis Flores, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Awesome, thank you. I have a few questions. My first question is, what would be considered the main entrance since there are 2 drop-offs?
Yes, let me answer that first. In option A, what you're seeing in a light blue in this area is administration area. We're not showing that in different sections yet because we want to focus on the site planning ideas for this one. But because it is related here, in option A, this is considered a front. In option B, administration areas here, and this will be considered the front. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm more in support of option B, and my question for option B is, what is your vision if that is the main entrance as far as getting kind of this community hub feel that we talked about at the last design charrette, since it's so far back from the rest of the neighborhood?
Yeah.
I want to understand kind of what your vision was for that.
Well, I think both schemes, well, let me simplify and be honest, because existing building is here, the location of the new building has to be to the south. And, you know, because the existing building has to be in operation until the new building is completely finished. And then we move the kids over there and then start demolishing. So having said that, you know, saving all these trees here to the north, I think there was a right thing to do. And I think we should certainly push ourselves to do that. And I think there could be some opportunities down the road, although making this area into a park is not part of this project because it is focused on school. But with the community's help and collaboration, I can see something really beautiful that can happen in this area so that it feels occupiable. And those occupiable spaces are making these spaces very safe for the community and also for school.
Okay, and my last question has to do with the truck loading, which is inevitably a part of the program for the school.
Yeah.
And with option B, facing the residential is not necessarily community inviting for people that are living off of Flamingo. Although I appreciate the fact that option B has more green space adjacent to the building, which would be opportunities for outdoor classrooms. I'm wondering if there's more opportunity to relocate the truck loading so it's maybe not facing the residential, or maybe it's screened, or if you guys had discussed that while you were doing the design scheme.
Yeah, of course. We discussed this so many times. And trust me, it's like this. We try to put it in the middle of the building, right? Kind of hinge, basically put it in your armpit. If you are to see this as a human being, and kind of tuck it aside. But that means it's just more concrete.
Yes.
Occupying this beautiful site. So it's a balancing act. But I do understand your concern. Seeing someone else's trash can. But I don't think I have a silver bullet at this point. But I do ask for your patience, and it's a big project. So we're gonna have to locate the trash can somewhere.
Yes.
And someone's gonna see it, and that's a difficult thing. But we will try really hard to make the nuisance least painful. I promise you. But someone's going to see that, and that's in fact. So I feel like I kind of answered your question without being definite, but that's the condition at this point. So please forgive me.
No, I appreciate your answers. Those were all my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. We have a couple more questions coming through the chat.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any plan to incorporate design elements or materials from the historic building, meaning the current building, into the new building?
Ooh, is this another architect question?
This will be another, yes.
No, I'm asking the questioner. It might be an architect. Well, thank you for that question. Of course, I'm an architect, and I really appreciate that kind of insight. The neighborhood is drawing a lot from kind of mid-century products, and then we will study which are the next steps, because we have created some of the beautiful architectures from that era, and that's gonna have an impact on how I begin to delineate the facade of the buildings. Will we be able to use all those beautiful kind of expensive materials? No, I'm gonna do it by utilizing everyday materials that we can find today, and kind of execute in how we perceive those era and how this building was first designed. So that's the next step. I'm very excited. I can't wait to show you guys that option, but it is on my mind. And thank you so much for bringing that up.
Great. And again, if you're joining us later, you're wondering how to participate. This is for the replacement school for Martha Turney Reilly Elementary School. If you're joining us on the Zoom, please feel free to raise your hand, and we can allow you to unmute and ask your question directly, or you may place in the chat room. If you're joining us tonight via Facebook on our Facebook Live broadcast, you can submit any questions, comments, or concerns as comments on the Facebook, and we will share those as well. So with that being said, do we have any additional, I don't see any hands raised right now. Any thoughts? And I'm guessing we need to check. Okay, we do have a comment. Thank you, Evan Dyer. In option A, the pre-K first wing looks like a rectangle, but in option B, it appears the wing narrows a bit at the end. Will that affect the size of the classrooms at all?
Well, the size of the classrooms are determined by our program managing Decatur folks, and they're very logically done. So the reason why the academic wing, second through fifth, is the width of it is fatter than the pre-K to first, is because in academic second through fifth, we got additional science and collaboration areas. That's why there are differences, but the individual classroom sizes should not differ too much.
Okay, great. So thank you, Ms. Flores. Will both options be developed further than voted upon by the community?
Most likely, we're gonna have to pick one option and then move forward, because it is much better to pick one direction and continue to make that option better and better. So most likely we'll have to run with one option from here on, and then we move on to the development of the architectural details and the inner workings of the program for the school itself.
Yeah, and it's correct. Yeah, we'd like to give the architect direction on option A or B, which one to develop further from this meeting. And when we come back to our next one, you'll kind of see that concept develop more with the exterior massing kind of fleshed out.
Correct. Thank you.
So we're actually about to launch a poll here. If you're joining us on Facebook, if you could make your selection just in the comment section, just put A or B. If you're here on the, excuse me, in our, and I do apologize, my sinus is killing me. If you're here on in our Zoom call, we just launched a poll here that lets you say whether you prefer option A or option B. So you can go ahead and express your thoughts now. And if anyone, as you're voting or if you're voting, if you want to go ahead and indicate what you like, prefer about one or the other to give a little bit more direction, or what you dislike about one or the other, you can do so in the chat or either by raising your hand. Great, we're getting, well, right now, option B is the runaway favorite right here, with 12 or 14 people responding, favoring option B. So we're gonna leave the poll open a little bit longer to make sure that everyone that's on the Zoom call has an opportunity to participate. Okay, someone shared, Ms. Flores shared that option B because of the more adjacent green space for the classrooms. And Ms. Stetler has the question, are all the surrounding streets the equal width?
No, they're not. I cannot tell you the exact dimensions, but I think the Flamingo is narrower than Nearing or Sutherland. And why do you ask question? I'm just curious.
I asked the question because
the queuing?
Yes, I think
okay.
pick up and drop off is a problem we have at the moment. And I want to make sure with the new school, there are opportunities for that to improve and
right.
not to get worse because streets are narrow or, you know, there's not enough room to maneuver. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. That again, well, thank you for asking the question. It's an interesting balance of putting more concrete or not, because more concrete we put in the middle of the site, more cars we can get off the street, but then more green spaces you lose. So it's kind of balanced, and we try to be accommodating with the city, with the community, but at the same time, this beautiful green we have that can be enjoyed. It's a balance. So,
okay,
thank you.
We do have. Thank you so much for your thoughts. We do have several thoughts coming through. Katie Decker says, I prefer option B, the same as the above, the green space adjacent to the classrooms. Jordan Michelle said, I voted for B for the same reason, but would love to have, but would have big concerns about the loading zone and dumpster if they were a homeowner on Flamingo. They would love to see B's playground, this is from Kate Greer, love to see B's playground space expand a little further north toward Lippert, but appreciate the green space and the central entrance design, which are big favorites. Tracy Satimi said that she voted for A simply due to the drop-off areas. It's just a nightmare now. So we hear that the drop-off areas are major concerns. The green space is loved and wants to be expanded. And of course, those trash cans.
Yeah.
So right now, we're ending the poll right now. And the results of the poll are as following. Option A receives 11% of the votes, and option B, the runaway favorite, with 89% of the votes. So thank you for sharing your results.
Wow, you guys are decisive.
Very decisive.
That's awesome.
Great. So focusing on option B as the preferred choice from this particular poll in this particular meeting, can we, if anyone wants to jump in, we've heard several comments about option B. So if we could focus on that one, or any additional comments or questions or concerns focusing on option B as the preferred choice? Any suggestions to make that, anything you want to see added to or subtracted from, or somehow we've heard about the green space, I think the expanding of the playground. Is there anything else about option B that you want to give input, would like to give input on?
You know, you're not going to hurt my feelings, so please do not hesitate. I'm here to help you guys. It's not about me. And also those folks who voted for option A, it's not like we're leaving you and just go with option B. Well, what about some of the things that you liked on A? Perhaps you would like to see on B, and perhaps why? Sharing that will be very productive for me. So do not hesitate. Share your ideas.
Yes, and keep in mind, you can simply raise your hand if you're on our Zoom call. And if you're on Facebook, please feel free just to add it in the comment section and we'll get your thoughts shared. Okay, I have a couple of hands. Principal O'Neill, go ahead.
Yes, I know Ms. Atini had mentioned the drop off is why she voted for option A. The inset that's on A, where you have the pre-K through first queuing, is it an option? I'm not sure with the city regulations to do some kind of queuing that ends up into this parking lot so that the cars aren't on the street, if that makes sense.
Oh, you're talking about queuing here?
On Sunland, yeah. So all those cars are parked and waiting to go into the entrance to pick up. Is there a way to do an inset there like there is on option A and still turn into there?
Yes.
I don't know. That would be a city. I'm not sure there may be some regulations on that, but is that an option?
Well, yeah, that is an option. So we can do something similar that's happening on Nearing Drive here. But this was brought up by our traffic engineer. And one of the reasons why we did this kind of completely into the site is to be a nice team member to the city. Because city is going to be concerned about all these cars being on the street before entering the school. So in order to alleviate that situation, we're allowing people to queue onto our site so that the cars are technically off the street. Does that make sense? But you know, as long as we do these curb cuts, which we're doing onto our property, then it should be taken as a nice gesture from the city perspective as well.
Great. I'm coming to you, Mr. Galliopoulos. We have a couple of other comments. We have in the comment section first, Trustee Mishke extended his gratitude for everyone for joining the meeting tonight. He had to jump into another meeting, but he wanted to thank the community for joining the meeting and expressing your concerns as well. So we have one idea that came forward is, since we're looking at option B, can we get a walking trail around the green areas? Can we incorporate a walking trail? And then also Ms. Galeopoulos, go ahead and unmute and ask your question. I see you have it in the chat as well. And I apologize for, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing your name. I do apologize. Susan?
Okay. In looking at these two, I know you talked about expansion so that we wouldn't, I guess, have to use portables. Is that what the little, I see in B, there's a spot that says reference. I guess that's where you would expand if you need 2nd through 5th, but I don't see where you would be able to do that in Plan A because there's a parking lot right there.
Right.
And there's a bus thing on the other side.
Right. You are right.
So I don't understand.
You don't understand.
Well, I see you can expand pre-K there on whatever this one on Plan A. Oh, and now I see. So it would be actually, okay, never mind. I just couldn't see it.
Oh,
from
okay.
The other one, so.
Yeah. So option B does allow us an easier way to expand later on. So there's another plus for option B.
Okay.
It also, option B also provides 2 different directions for expansion from the drawing we're seeing.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shelton, I agree with Ms. Atimi. I like the green space in option B more, but I do feel the drop-off space in A is better, as we do have a lot of parents who do like to walk their children up to the school and not just drop off from the car.
So how do they do it now? If the parents, if they want to stop on a street and then hold their kid's hand and they walk into the school without getting into the parking space or drop-off area, how do they do it now? It's probably a question for Ms. O'Neill.
Well, or I can answer that.
Or, whoever, please.
This is Ms. Shelton.
Go ahead, Ms. Atimi.
Oh, go ahead, Mrs. Steamy. I just dropped my kid off and walk him too, so I was just kind of jumping in there too. But go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah. So a lot of people, they literally just park and they walk. Well, what happens is people who are still dropping off, they will sometimes, if it's crowded on both sides, they will park their car in the middle of the street where no one can pass by. So we've had so much congestion where both sides people are honking. I mean, it gets kind of a little bit aggressive because people are always in a hurry, So if you're dropping and walking in, if there was a place separate for where there could still be movement for the other cars and they're not having to park in the middle, that would be amazing.
And also it's a safety concern because we do have a lot of parking, but people aren't using crosswalks all the time. So we're walking in front of traffic because we're not parking close to the crosswalk. So there are definitely a lot of safety concerns right now because everybody pretty much is parking and getting out of their car. So we do need to eliminate that for safety reasons for our community, our parents, our students, but also our staff who are out there in the middle of the street directing traffic and trying to make it for a smooth arrival.
It's 10 jobs in one body, so I know the difficulties. So let me ask you this. Sometimes if you go to a fast food restaurant, the drive-through takes so long, so you choose to park and walk in. Is that why the parents are parking and walking their kids, or because they just want to? I'm asking if the drive-through if it works fabulously, will parents still choose to park their car and take their kid by walking?
Well, especially the littles, K1 they really want to drop off. And I mean, that's just a whole, being a parent, you want to drop your kid off, give them a hug, wish them a good day. And that gets your kid off to a great start for their day. So I think it is definitely a personal nurturing thing that parents want to do. It's just a part of their routine.
Yeah, I agree with that. As having the pre-K and the kindergartner and first grader, they still prefer me to walk them up to the door.
Mhm.
They don't want to just jump out of the car. And so I do that. Also, there's a lot of people in the neighborhood who they, let their kids ride their scooters or ride their bikes, and then they take that home with them. We do have a lot of people who walk to school in the morning. So just having something where the flow is good. Every morning I purposely take my kids early so I can avoid the craziness at about close to the 7:45 bell, so that I don't feel like we're going to get hit or ran over when we're walking. So.
And for a reference, we put in the chat. Ms. Decker shared Ms. Timmy, there's like 7 for reference how many cars can be queued for a drop off at the current site, and the answer was about 7 or 8. And we do have agreement that the pre-K 1 parents do prefer to walk in rather than drop off.
What would you say is what percentage of the pre-K parents want to perhaps park and drop off?
So it'd be you're talking about pre-K, just for clarity. You're saying pre-K, kinder, and first grade parents. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Pre-K through first. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's a question. You guys may not know the exact number, but even just ballpark idea, would you say like 50% of the pre-K through first graders?
More.
Higher? More?
Maybe
Definitely.
about 75%, I would say 75 to 80% of the parents who want to be able to, accompany their child to the door.
That's exactly the number I was going with.
So that's the majority. Okay, so that's something that I didn't know.
Little.
And thank you for sharing that.
And if I could interject a question that just came to my mind. Currently, when you're talking about that, which street primarily are the parents using to park on? You said there's congestion, people just stop in their cars in the middle of the street. What path are they using now, that pre-K through first grade, to access the campus?
In the morning, everybody drops off in the front entrance.
On Lippitt.
Okay.
For pickup, pre-K through second is on Sunland, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th is on Nearing.
And you see the same thing in the evenings where parents are parking and then going to pick their kids up, or in the evenings, or they're allowing the kids to be brought to the cars?
They can't. There's really not a way with the current design and street layout for parents to just pull through and pick up their kid, because you're talking about the distance from where we're staging the kids to the street is a big distance. So there's really, I think that's, and it's my 2nd year at Reilly, so I think that's historically it just doesn't exist, and so people park their cars and pick up their kids.
Okay, a couple more comments coming through the comment section, and maybe the relevance of this. One is, how wide is the little road from Lippitt to the central parking area and drop-off area? And the second is a question: what are the logistics for a parent who has a student to drop off at the pre-K through first grade wing and the second through 5th? In other words, are the parents having to get into one line, exit, and get into another line, or is there a siblings drop-off system in place?
Well, so if I understand the question right, are you saying once you pick up your kid, is there a way to get out of the lane fast? Is that what's being asked?
No, we have some parents. The question is about siblings, and I think this goes to Ms. O'Neill, to the school.
Okay.
So if you have one child or children that are in pre-K through first grade, and you have another set of kids who are in 2nd through the 5th grade, how would be, and even in thinking through this, would there be a sibling drop off? Would there be a way you could integrate those kiddos, or how do you see that working out? That's a question that's coming up as well.
So right now, in the past, there has been a sibling, a logistical kind of system for bringing siblings together to dismiss. However, with COVID last year, we currently have separate drop-offs. So that's something that we would have to kind of talk about as a school. And I don't know in the future as we talk through the design options looking at that. But right now, we currently aren't using that system because of safety concerns. and then the staff that it would take to manage that with all of the COVID systems and structures that we have in place.
Right.
This is our second year where we're not doing siblings. So the parents kind of just make the loop, pick up one kid, and then make the loop to the back of the building and pick up the other students.
There's also a recommendation for bike racks and a bike entrance, I guess, that would be the same or perhaps similar to the walker entrance would be for the kiddos that do ride bikes to school. That's another suggestion that came through the chat.
Yes, we'll definitely have bike racks. We haven't located them yet, but we'll definitely have them. So here's an idea. I realized that dropping off your pre-K through first grader with a parent is a big thing. Perhaps there was a question that we did not answer along the way, which was, can there be some walking trail on this side? If you have all these parking, you park on the street. I don't think we can create permanent parking just for that purpose. But if we allow all these parking and then connect at strategic points and lead them, can you see my cursor, to the school front? And this is like, killing two birds with the one stone. So that's going to be a nice addition. So you can utilize the sidewalk, and then sidewalk transitions into the Greenland, and then it brings you to the front of the school. So that could be an idea there. Oops. Is there another question, Ms. Bell?
I agree that the parent, okay. Right now, we don't have any other questions coming in.
Okay.
Does anyone have from Facebook, we're having a lot of thumbs up and great job, but no real questions coming in. We're about to wrap up. We've actually, and almost at the 7 o'clock hour. I do want to share again that this presentation and the meeting has been recorded, and the video recording as well as the presentation will be posted at the Bond website. So to track this and other questions, if you know someone who could not join us tonight on this meeting that you want to share this information with, please, you can send them to www.dallasisd.org/bond 2020 meetings. Again, that's dallasisd.org/BOND, the number 2020 meetings, and that is with an S at the end. The information will be there. There's also a link there as well where they can submit those questions, and those questions will be shared with the design team for future references. We do have 2 more questions that did come in. Are we going to have sustainability features in the new building? If so, would you integrate them in a way that the students can learn from them? What a great suggestion. And another compliment as far as wonderful, and thank you for the presentation and meeting. Again, Dallas ISD recognizes the importance of the community, parent, and school voice during this process. We're just at the very beginning of this process. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Alfred, who can talk through next steps.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bell, and thank you, Manning team. I think you guys put together a great presentation, great feedback and questions from our Raleigh community as well. So we're going to take some of your comments. We're going to work with the architect to kind of refine and develop that option B you guys selected. And I'm also going to ask Principal O'Neill to work with me to form a small group we can bounce quick ideas off of in between our next meeting, because we want to kind of get into the academic areas of the building as well as we develop the exterior envelope and skin. But I see us after those small meetings and those small committees coming back to this larger group, probably in November, December timeframe, to really show you, the new image and the refinement of the building and the architecture. Again, the design time for this one, we're giving the architect about 12 months to design it. which means around this time or late in the fall, we anticipate starting construction on this new project, and can't really wait to see all you guys at this groundbreaking. And then, of course, our ribbon cutting, we're aiming for fall of 2024 for this building. So anyway, a lot of information we got to digest. We've just begun this journey, and I will be seeing you all November, December timeframe, and some of you a little sooner. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Principal Neal, if you would like to make any closing remarks.
Yes, I just want to thank all of our staff, our community members, the architects, Dallas ISD, bond department, project managers that are working really hard. I appreciate all of the feedback. It always is good to have a lot of voices because we all see things differently. And so I'm just really excited to refine option B. It is the option that I feel like is the best for Reilly. So I'm kind of glad that that's the option that we went with. And but I am looking forward to all of the feedback that was received today and working to refine that option. So thank you again to the community. We really appreciate your feedback.
Thank you again for joining us this evening. Again, please keep up to date on this and other bond projects at www.dallasisd.org/bond2020. Thank you again and have a wonderful evening.